The results of becoming a single mum online. Should you ask or even know your partner's body count and how to manifest your dream partner? We'll see you right after this. G'day and welcome to The Tinder Project, the podcast where a straight Aussie man attempts to survive 365 days dating online as an American woman. I'm your host, Mark Rosenfeld, Australia's dating coach for women. I'm here with my sidekick, self-love coach, Teal Elizabeth, and together we have one mission: to make meeting good men fun and easy for you. Let's give it a bell.
Hi, Mark.
How are you this morning? It's so strange seeing you on a Friday.
Our listeners will never know. I really have been starting to enjoy our weekly chats. It's like our little friend get-togethers every week.
It's our little catch-up every week, Tia. We had a bit of a scare before you came online. There was a slight doggy incident with some chocolate, but all is good. We're okay.
I feel so bad. I'm just like throwing all my life challenges at you. I'm like, I'm sick. My baby this. My baby threw up on me. Now my dog ate chocolate. And I rushed him to the hospital. You're just such a sweetheart. You're just always accommodating and showing us what chivalry really gets to be like.
Everything is okay, guys. Teal is good. Her dog is good. The baby is fine. So no need to worry. Teal, it's great to have you back. We've got some interesting topics today. I've become a single mum over the last month or so. And the results have been quite interesting. Would you like to know what they are?
I would. I think I
What is it like becoming a single mum? I've run one profile. You won't see this really in regular life because most people are typically going to take a break in dating between not being a mum and being a mum. But I did not do that. I went straight in. Now, I did make one other change, which is I paused the profile on Hinge and moved it over to Bumble. Typically, Hinge has outperformed Bumble for most of this challenge, so I was a little hesitant that I thought, well, are we going to be able to tell if Bumble performs worse? Is it a Bumble problem? Is it a single mum problem? But I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with the final results for the month. So I just need to make sure I open the right window here, Teal. Click the right button, and here it is. Can you see my screen, Teal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're listening, I've got the August, September, and October results on here. Keep in mind, August was a fairly standard month, just like July. September, we stopped opening conversations. In October, we stopped using emojis moving into November. And then November, December has been single mum. So the results are at the end of the screen, and the second from the right column for those listening, August was 13 dates, September was 12, October was 12, and my little drum roll, 11 phone dates in November, December as a mum.
Wow. So I'm going to say, truly, there is not that much difference. If you are just single and on the market with no attachments to anything or any of these other things, none of this is making that big of a difference.
It's not making a huge difference. I was quite surprised. It was a bit of a slow start to the month, but it often is. Every new app, the start is slow. I was really impressed overall, actually, and the conversations felt a bit more intentional. We had some really good guys, and it was interesting, Teal, because keep in mind as well, if I unshare the screen for a moment here, keep in mind, we are positioning this as the mum of a one-year-old. A one-year-old. So this is not my child is 5, my child is 10. This is a one-year-old. So this is, if there was ever going to be a time where you might suffer a bit of judgment or you might perceive that you're going to suffer some judgment, this would be it. It's like my child is 1 and I'm a single mum. But I haven't seen that much of it. Now, I'm sure there's a little bit less swiping and possibly some fewer matches that we received, but we still received over 2,500. So not really having any lack of, issues with numbers there. But the guys, I've just been so impressed. And instead of talking about hobbies and interests, often when the guys ask, how are you going? What's happening on your weekend, your day or something? The honest answer for a lot of single mums is, well, I basically just hung out with my kid today, especially mum of a young child. And I wasn't shy about saying that. He says, how's your weekend? I say, actually, it felt amazing. I got to spend time with my daughter, took her to the park, and then we went to see grandma, had lots of fun, ha ha ha. So a lot of it was not like, oh, I'm doing anything big, amazing stuff. It was just sharing the feelings. It was just answering the questions well with a good energy. And the guys were just solid. A couple of them asked very polite questions like, oh, it's lovely that you have that great connection with your daughter. It's so nice to see. They maybe even like, what's her favorite hobby or something. They would ask an occasional question, not intrusively, but just kind of politely. And it was just really good too. Yeah, there's almost no difference in the overall performance. It's a fraction less. And we did have to go through a few more profiles. Just looking at the numbers again, we viewed a few more profiles. So the previous months we viewed between 60 and 100. This month we viewed 130. So there was a bit more of a churn rate. A few more guys, I suppose the conversations didn't have the legs. One number that did change was in the previous months, we've been getting about 30 conversations to get to that 12 phone calls. This month it took 50. But to be honest, I think a lot of that is just Bumble, because guys on Bumble, they want you to message first, of course, being Bumble. And if the guy doesn't log on within 24 hours, that conversation disappears. So of those 50 conversations, I probably lost 20 just in the fact that the guy wasn't online within 24 hours to respond to me or didn't reply within 24 hours. So while there was a bit more swiping, I kind of just put that down to being on Bumble instead of Hinge. And overall, mum's the word. It's really good.
This gives me so much hope for all our ladies out there in the dating world, just showing that there are really genuine good guys out there. And I think that's been a consistent theme of our conversations since the beginning. It doesn't matter what kind of woman you are, older, younger, with a child, without a child, there are really good quality men out there, and you just got to know where to find them and how to talk to them.
I'll bring a few of the conversations next week because there was something a little more, I don't know if the word's substantial, not that they weren't before, but some of these where the guy was like, either asked a single question about the daughter or maybe was just, aware of the babysitter situation. He goes, oh, like, can we talk? Like, do you have your daughter? Have you got some free time? There was just some guys who were extra considerate. And I thought that was really cool. It really gave me a lot of hope, Teal, and a lot of there's some great people out there.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear this. Way to go.
Very much positive. I will say that we're trying a different strategy this month, so I'm going to reveal what that is to you soon. Still a single mum, still on Bumble, but a different style, and it's not working anywhere near as well. So I'll explain what that style is and how I changed up the tactic in a couple of episodes' time.
Ooh, excited. Cliffhanger.
So that one is a bit different. Let's get on to our next topic, Teal, which is an interesting question. Which I didn't know it was a question until I saw it trending online as a question. Should you ask or know your partner's body count? And by body count, we of course mean the number of people your partner has slept with or been with sexually. What do you think, Teal?
That is a charged question.
That was quite a hiccup. I enjoyed that, Teal. Thanks. Your hiccups are cute. Teal. They're very feminine little hiccups you got going there. So
this one is such a tricky one because, if I ask myself, being single and not in a partnership, would I want to know my partner's body count? Yes, I would like to know that. It's just nice to understand what we're working with, potential diseases that they could be carrying, all that kind of stuff. It's just nice to know the background that you're working with, kind of like test driving a car before you buy it. However, when I got into my relationship, my partner did not want to know. And I'm curious too if it's a difference between men and women, if maybe women don't care as much about knowing about men's, but if men very much have this ideal of not wanting to think of their woman as being tarnished, so to speak, and would rather just pretend that they are this, beautiful, pure angel that only they get to touch. So I'm going to err on the side of not sharing it, but not from a place of trying to hide anything about yourself, but more from a place of keeping this illusion that we don't need to know about the past. It's more about moving forward and what we're creating in the future.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts?
I had no idea what you'd answer to this. So I was really very curious about it. Okay. I'm a hard no on this. I'm an absolute devout no. I have zero interest in that. I think it would be a ridiculous question if Sam ever asked me. I wouldn't even know the answer, even if she did. And I wouldn't want to know hers for a number of reasons. I don't see any benefit with it. I don't see what it gains. What are you going to make a judgment of me on my relationship skills based on that? If I want to know health status, just get a test. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000, the health status will show up on the test. I think overall, I don't know, it's just this weird thing that you make a meaning from. If it's super low, you get judged for inexperience. If it's super high, you get judged for a different reason. I think it's the dumbest, stupidest, overrated thing. I would never want to be asked, and I would never ask, and that's my final say too.
Wow, okay. So you're
Yeah.
very similar to my partner then in how you feel about this because he
I have
feels very similar.
zero interest in that conversation either direction
Yeah, he
whatsoever.
feels very similar in that. And I don't know, for me, it just doesn't bother me that much. Like I'm genuinely curious just for the sake of being curious, but I do agree with you. There's no real win that comes from it. There's
I,
nothing.
I have a follow-up question on this, which
Don't you ask me what my number is.
no, I'm not going to ask you that. I'm not going to ask you that, but maybe this you don't have to answer this too. We'll cut it out if I make you uncomfortable. But I'm curious. Do you remember all of your one night stands? Assuming I know you had at least one because you've shared one on the podcast, and you're blushing, so you don't need to. She's blushing a lot. She's not blushing. Um, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, you're so blushing to your wow. You
No, actually, well, I know. I'm
Joke.
like, well, it's been a long
Okay,
time.
do you remember all of them? And I'm happy to answer this question as well. Do you
You're
remember?
kind of fishing though, because let's just say, and this isn't the case, that I've slept with like hundreds of men. Then obviously I'd have to say no, because there's no way you're going to
Sure,
remember a
sure,
hundred different people.
sure.
But if you've only had one night stand, then of course you're going to be like, yes, I remember that.
I mean, that's true.
So
That's a fair point. So if you feel that the answer gives away too much, then don't answer.
I would say probably most of them, yes.
Most of them. Okay.
Most of them.
Yeah, I like. I wouldn't know mine, and I'd like that's just being honest. It's not that high, but I that was what really made me realize like it's kind of meaningless because I don't remember like some of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where you go, huh? It seemed like great at the time, but I literally don't remember, and I think that's how you know that. What's kind of the point of that if I'm not
Yeah.
even
Well, I have a little
remembering?
black book where I kept track of all of the names. So
You
I could
did?
go back and I could jog my memory and I could remember each one of them. But
Do
off
you
the
still
top of my
possess such a book?
I do.
Do you?
I
Oh,
probably burned it before someone finds
Teal
it.
has a book. Spencer, are you listening? Find the book. Bring it
God,
to
this
us.
podcast gets the weirdest stuff out of me.
That's cool. Do you know what? I kind of wish I'd kept a book, Teal. I think
I
you.
didn't
I
want
think
to
you would
forget
have.
these people. I didn't.
Yeah,
And
I
even if I
really
didn't
wish that
sleep
I'd
with
kept a book. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, it wasn't just for people I slept with. It was people that I had really meaningful connections with. I've kept names of all
Yeah,
those people.
I
Yeah.
could remember all of those for sure. Like anyone that was me, even if it was a short relationship, for sure. But I do wish, you know what? If you're listening and you're young, any of our young listeners, Teal has a book. It looks like she's proud that she has. I don't have a book. I wish I did. So the net result here is get a book.
Well, it's more like a
Keep
page,
those
not a
memories.
book.
It's a novel. There's a lot written in it. Whatever
I
that
think
means.
it's important, though. I do think it's important. Okay, this is totally gonna be TMI, but I remember being like in high school and telling my parents that I wanted to have a one night stand, and I'm like, why? Looking back, I'm like, why would I tell my parents that? I have no idea. But it just at the time, I had such a fear of missing out on life experiences that I
Yeah.
wanted to experience everything. And one of the things on my bucket list was having a one night stand because I wanted to know what that was like to just have pure, meaningless sex. And it's like, okay, yeah, like you said, it's like it's interesting, but it's so much better when you have that devoted partner that you can
Yeah.
really just get to know
I
and
think
get
it's
to
cool
know.
that you were able to say that with your parents. My parents would have been too conservative. Even as a man, I
Oh,
never would have
they
been able to
were
say
they
that.
were they were probably freaked out by it. I made them very
I
uncomfortable.
mean, I still think the fact that you could say it is really impressive. I think that's cool because even if they were freaked out by it, you obviously had enough confidence, or you were a complete and total rebel, and like to the point where you just gave zero fucks. But I don't know. I think you had I don't know a ton about your history, but I just think that's really cool that you felt comfortable enough to say that, even though it made them clearly uncomfortable.
Thank you. I think I just had no filter and was not imagining how they're probably receiving that. I don't know if I'd want to hear that from my daughter down the road. Yeah, mommy, my New Year's resolution is to have a one night stand.
All right, we should get on to the main topic of the day,
Yes,
which
you
is
should.
how to manifest your dream partner, Teal. Now, you had some crazy client successes this week. I think you had 2 engagements and 2 women who met amazing men, possible dream, future, long-term partners. How you were talking to me before we came on about how important the vision was with this. Tell the listeners a little bit about setting out a vision, because I do this with my clients as well. Tell us a little bit about how you do it and why it was so important for these particular women to have a vision.
Yes, yes. I just love, love, love creating visions in general. I love the world of law of attraction and manifesting and all of that kind of stuff. So visioning in general is a huge part of attracting in and co-creating the kind of life that we want to have. And it goes into our partnerships as well. But I think where a lot of times visions fall short is focusing on the wrong aspects. And the way that I take my clients through their visions, yeah, I just want to reemphasize that because it just gave me chills. They literally said to me, Teal, everything that I wrote on our vision that we worked on together, I now see in this person in real life in front of me. And that's two engagements and two people meeting the love of their life and feeling like I literally manifested this person. And to me, that's just like, I live for those kinds of moments. Like it's not ever about the engagement, but it's about literally creating magic out of thin air is what it feels like. And so we have a lot more control than we even give ourselves credit for in how we put those visions out and the way that we choose to think about our visions. And I think a lot of times we get, when I ask women initially, what do you want in a man? What do you want in a partner? They either rattle off a list of, superficial like qualities.
Paper traits.
Mm-hmm. Or they have no idea. They have a general idea of what they want, but they know what they don't want based on the experiences they've had, but they don't know what they do want. And so the first place that I always take them is like, let's take all the things that didn't work and find what is the inverse of that and be able to really shift into creating what you do want. Because I always say, if you don't have a clear GPS coordinate of where you're going, you're just going to be spinning around in circles. And that's literally what I see women doing so much. And the universe will just keep delivering the same kinds of men to them because they're staying stuck in this uncertainty of what they're actually wanting. And I've found even in my own life in the last year or two, the more specific and the more clear I am in articulating not just what I want, but how I want to feel in that experience, it's just like it's able to flow to my life so much faster and with so much more ease, where I don't have to be overthinking it. I can literally just experience it into existence, which is just so, it's the world of magic. It's the world of energy. So the biggest thing for me, and I'd love to know how you approach it as well, but the biggest thing for me taking my clients through it is not just the paper traits, but really experiencing how I want to feel, how I want this dream man to make me feel, and really connecting into more of the heart poetry of it. And when we connect into the poetry of it, I want to feel the warmth when he holds me. I want to feel safe when he looks in my eyes, like I can tell him anything. I want to feel like I can just be light and giggly and expansive, and never have to worry about, saying something that's going to make him upset. Or if he does get upset, that we're going to be able to feel supported and respected in working through our differences. That kind of vision is a very different way of looking at a relationship than the tall, dark, and handsome, makes me laugh, has a good job, takes me on fun trips, pays for my dinners kind of vision. And when we can articulate it from that kind of energy of, my body feels safe, my heart feels light and open, I feel valued, I feel seen, then when we actually go out into the world, it's like we have this laser focus and we just cut out anything that doesn't feel that energy vibration. And that's how women are able to now, it's like parting the Red Seas when you go out dating. It's like, you can see all these men, you can see all their potentials, but you're not getting swept up in the flashiness of all of that, because you're really looking for the deeper energy that they're conveying in how they're interacting with you. And that's when the heart knows immediately, that's my person. I've just met the love of my life, because they feel it on a visceral level than trying to second guess it. Is he not? Should he not? On a mental level. Yeah.
I really like that.
Is that similar to how you approach it as well?
I like that a lot. Similar. I bring in other aspects as well, but I really like the way you describe that, kind of the experiential vision. I'm curious as well, how do you ensure that your clients differentiate from, I guess, what you might kind of say is like a Hollywood vision of infatuation, it's going to be perfect. I'm going to be swept off my feet by Prince Charming. It's going to feel so magical. And, how do you differentiate a client who is maybe giving a vision that basically describes really high chemistry and really intense desire that we so often feel with a new person? How do you differentiate that? Because that can feel very magical, but often it's a trauma trap. So how do you differentiate something like that versus, I guess you'd say, a good feeling vision that is not a trauma trap?
That's a great question. Yeah. I think that goes into what I was saying before about like really pulling from what hasn't worked in past relationships and finding the inverse. So if you found that your past partner, did not prioritize you in your relationship, then the inverse of that is I want someone who makes me a part of their life and prioritizes me in their life, and that's one of your values. Or my past partner could not have emotionally mature, deep conversations. It's like, okay, then I know that's a huge value for me that I want for this relationship. And then what does that feel like to have that emotionally deep conversation?
Gotcha.
And I think that when we can take the things that haven't worked, that highlights the values that you're actually really looking for, so that you're not just getting caught up in the chemistry. And having those values is what gives that vision substance, so that it's not just, I want him to just make me feel loved and excited and happy and all, like you said.
Okay. And do you bring in, what if past partners have positive traits that you want to attract again? Do you bring that in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I really love to say is, every person you meet is like a lily pad man. You're just jumping from one lily pad man to the next until you meet the one that sticks around. And
what's he called? Is he called Lily Pad?
King Lillipad? Prince
King
Charming,
Lillipad.
right?
Okay. Prince Charming on King Lillipad. Nice. But he's not a frog, so don't go that far in the middle.
The other ones weren't even frogs, they were just the lily pad.
They were just there's no frogs at all involved in this metaphor.
But each one of them is in really important stepping stones to leapfrog to the Prince Charming. And each one gets to give you that next step of stability or traits that you want to take with you into your Prince Charming vision.
I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. The feelings-based version. I always have clients look at a few different areas. One of them is sort of around that. I also get them to look at how are our conflicts going, some of the relationship skill pieces. I am a little bit more objective. We use a traffic light system where we sort of say, well, how's this person sitting in the different areas? Are they a green light? So far, so good is green. Yellow would be unknown. Orange is, oh, I'm not sure about that. And obviously a red light would be, oh, I've seen kind of a red flag here. So having the traffic lights kind of each week for each guy helps us go, all right, we'll compare and contrast, number one, so we can kind of see, oh, maybe you thought this guy was good, but then you go, oh, this is good. This guy's like a 10 in relationship skills. This guy's maybe like a 7. And it also allows you to see changes over time. So you might see lights that go from orange to green, but you might also see lights that go from green in week 1 or 2 to actually, now I've seen this guy in different circumstances, it's becoming a red in, say, week 8. And so you see kind of the directional trends. But it is a little bit more heady. So I really like that you're bringing in that idea of, okay, yeah, what's the felt sensation here? What's my experience of this? Because I can see that being a really good guide on the path towards that North Star. So
yeah, I love it.
And what can ladies do if they're listening, other than obviously booking a call with you, Teal? What else can ladies do if they want to start building out their vision and just start thinking about this stuff? Maybe they're in that position earlier where you said, I just don't know. What can they start doing?
I think first listing out, like I said, all the things that you've experienced up until now, whether they've been good traits or bad traits, and asking yourself what things do you want to pull into that vision of the things that worked or the things that didn't work that you want to inverse and then create into something new. And then asking after every single one of those traits, how does that trait make me feel? What would it feel like to experience that trait? If the trait is, I want to feel prioritized, what does feeling prioritized feel like? It feels like not needing to worry about when they're going to call to book time with you, to spend time with you, right? It's just knowing that they want to feel safe, that they want to involve you in their life, that you don't have to feel like you're pushing the relationship forward because they're already initiating those moments of feeling like you're building into their life. What would that actually feel like in your nervous system, right? Or if, like I was saying, the emotional communication piece, what would it feel like to actually be able to drop in with a man who's able to have raw, deep emotional conversations where you don't have to pry it out of them, but he just offers it? That's literally what my client was saying today. She's like, I just can't believe this. Like, he's offering me the chance to be able to share how he feels, and he feels comfortable with me to share it, and he wants to share it with me. She's like, I've never experienced this before.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how does that feel? She's like, just so good because I don't have to be in the driver's seat and I don't have to push things or pry him open or be in my head trying to control this. I get to just be here and be loving and be me. And I'm like, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what she had written in her vision. I don't want to have to try. I just want to be me. So I think really asking that deeper question of how do these different traits that you want, how would experiencing that feel? And again, like I said, that's when the heart starts to really be the one that's scanning versus the
Yep.
brain.
Yeah.
And when the heart is scanning, it can really pick things up on a lot faster and more potent frequency than the brain questioning and overthinking things.
Yeah, I like that a lot because sometimes some of those paper traits, while they are important, you do want someone who has a job. Um,
Yes.
it can be it can be hard to know if, without stopping and actually becoming aware of it. What are you making that mean? So if someone says, "Oh, I want a guy over 6 foot," well, what does that really mean to you? Usually, it means I'm feeling attracted, I'm feeling safe, and when you stop and question, you actually think, well, I'm sure if we got all the population of guys out there who are 5'10" or even 5'8", I'm sure there are at least some in there with whom you could feel attraction and safe. They may not be common, but they are there. So that idea of, well, it's kind of going a layer or two deeper, and it's not just what is the paper thing? Does he do that thing? But it's like, do I get the feeling that I'm actually seeking from finding that paper thing?
Yes. Yes.
That's
However,
cool.
I love what you've added in too about these red light, green light, yellow light qualities because I'm chatting with one of my girlfriends. She's like, "You have to use this on the podcast. You have to tell about this experience because this is so ridiculous." She almost has the opposite experience where she feels so emotionally seen and valued and adored by this guy, but he's just not meeting those paper trait qualities. And he's not actually able to fully be her Prince Charming in the ways that she would feel proud to bring home to dad. And I think that that does play a role as well. It's not all just about how he makes you feel, even though that is a really big part of it. But there are some
Yeah.
paper traits that, like, yeah, he's kind of a yellow flag in this. It's like, ooh, he doesn't have a very good relationship with his mom. Okay, that's kind of a concern. That could be a red flag. And yeah, his house is
Yeah.
kind of a mess and he's not very clean. Like, that is kind of a red flag. And these things are important too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because those traits that you're mentioning there, not a good relationship with his mum, messy house, that type of stuff, we also have the same thing in reverse of, well, what does that mean? And if we go to a stereotype, well, doesn't have a good relationship with his mum could mean mummy issues or trauma, which are a very reasonable concern to have. And what was the other one you said? Doesn't keep
Cleanliness.
his house clean. So poor internal boundaries is what you might assume that would equate to. And these are interesting because these are ones I put in the relationship or conflict skill category. And those are the ones that are hard to kind of spot early on, especially if someone is a little more forward, very into you, they're high, they're doing all the things. Compatibility, which is, do we live in the same place? Do we the same religion? Do we want the same number of kids? Do we have the same values on health and wealth and money and sex? That type of stuff you can often ask about, and people will tell you the truth. But relationship skills and conflict skills, you can't really ask about those things because someone who can't do them will either lie intentionally or more likely they just won't be aware of how much they suck at those skills, and so they'll lie by accident. So for example, if someone has a poor relationship with anger but they're not aware of it, you can't really ask them, do you have a good relationship with anger? Because they're just going to go, yeah, a good relationship with anger. Yeah, really, really, absolutely. You have to read between the lines. And so what Teal's referring to here, I was chatting with a client about this earlier. One of the big things you can look for is impulsiveness. Because impulsiveness is really a representation of a disconnect between body and head. It's like the body is grabbing the wheel of the car and wrenching it off in a direction that the head is not in alignment with. And unfortunately, when the body and the head are out of alignment, you can't trust the person. You can only trust the impulses. And the impulses are there to protect the person. They don't care about you. So you end up becoming on the wrong end of their trauma, and that's how it gets spread to you. So to bring this back, Teal, to where you said, well, he doesn't have a good relationship with his mum. Now, again, we shouldn't generalize. There's plenty of people with shitty families who do a lot of work in healing. But if we take the stereotype and the generalization, if someone has a shitty relationship with the opposite gender parent, often it will absolutely, if they haven't done the work, reflect on their intimate relationships. So you can be feeling very good and very calm and very safe, but you need to read between the lines of like, all right, this is fine now, but when I ask certain questions like, oh, how do you go? It could even be like, how's your relationship with your mum? Setting boundaries with your mum. How do you feel that uh,
How do
with your
holidays
mum?
get to look like? You
Yeah,
know?
how do
Mhm.
holidays look with your mum? When do you get angry with your mum? You've got to kind of read between the lines of what they say, because often it's not what they say, it's the pauses or it's what they don't say that you're listening for. But these relationship skill pieces are why I encourage clients not to commit too soon, because you can get really nice feelings. That's why I asked you that question earlier about how do you
Mhm.
differentiate the sparkle and the chemistry, because
Mhm.
often that can feel good early, and it's important for me. I always encourage clients fill out those traffic lights every week, look at
Mhm.
compatibility and ask the questions about whether they want kids and where they want to live and stuff. But with relationship skills, with conflict skills, you need to ask questions and then read between the lines. And the other thing you can do, Teal, I don't know if you encourage clients to do this, is tell a story about something you did relating to that skill and then see how the person reacts. So, for
Ooh,
example, if you had a real emotional block and then you went to therapy, tell a story to the person about you having an emotional block and going to therapy. And from their reaction, you'll learn a lot, because they might say, "That's so cool. I had a similar thing." They tell you a whole story of how they went to therapy, which is your green flag, or they kind of like might get really maybe they're just like don't know what to say and they get a bit tongue tied and they're sort of looking at you like a stunned mullet. That would be your orange flag. Or they might say, "Oh, like therapy, working on a motor, that's not really a thing. Why do you
mhm.
do that? I don't just accept yourself as you are." So I forgot to say this earlier, telling a story of the trait you want and how you embody it with relationship skills, that can often work better than actually asking the person a question, because
I love that.
you see
I've
their
never
reaction
heard
and
of
then
that before, but I
make a
love
reading
that.
off that. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Actually,
Tell
one I drop early is them having a coach. There's a simple example. It's like, oh yeah, I'm really working on my relationships. I hired a new relationship coach. I'm working on my feminine energy, and the person will either think it's really cool, they'll be a bit confused but open to it, or they'll think it's weird. And that's kind of your green, yellow, red flags with an early relationship skills sign.
hmm Or, I mean, you don't have to necessarily admit relationship coaching specifically, but it could even be nutrition coaching, or I've hired, coaches in the past for other things. I always felt uncomfortable when I was dating, my now husband, to tell him actively in the moment of us dating, yeah, I'm hiring a coach to work on this.
I used to feel uncomfortable with it, but I think that was just my own shit, because I started doing it, and then I now encourage all clients to do it.
Mm,
But you
yeah.
frame it in a way that basically says, yeah, I've been going really well in other areas. Like I hired a physical coach, I hired a money coach. So actually, I'm putting my relationships on front this year. So
Mhm.
yeah, I hired a relationship coach, which is cool. Like he has me basically. I make sure I take my time. I make sure that I don't project my trauma onto anyone in the future. So I'm really respectful, and I'm really learning to be in my feelings more, using my feminine energy. I even have like a spreadsheet where I like make sure the guys are treating me well, I'm being respectful, and yeah, and I sort of go into that. Let's be intentional about it. And
Mhm.
again, it's a little polarizing because some people might think it's a bit weird, but I think anyone who's on the fence, if you explain it well, they will actually think it's cool.
Yes.
You just have to kind of pitch it in the right way. I'm just wanting to weed out those 20% of people who think it's lame or gay or
Yeah.
inappropriate, and I think it does that really well, bringing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think the only worry that I have with that, and yeah, it's not anything that is a deal breaker, but more just like it kind of loses some of the allure and the mysticism of like this feminine creature who's just so amazing, incredible, right? She's just coming in with this beautiful energy. If she's like, they're like, oh yeah, well, she's just doing her little tricks on me that the coach told her to do. It kind of kills some of the vibe of it.
I hear that. Yeah, I think again, it's really important the way it's framed. If
How
it
it's
feels
framed.
like a trick or something, yeah,
Yeah.
I could totally see that. That's why presenting it as, I'm really like working on being in my feelings and sinking in and being more vulnerable and sharing myself more. I used to be kind of closed up and I had these walls. So actually, yeah, if I like share a feeling with you, yeah, 100%, that's something I'm doing to show more of myself and be more courageous. I think if you frame it right, you don't lose too much of that. But I hear what you're saying in terms of maybe the mystery part.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's beautiful. I love that we have different approaches to this, but they're both, I think, very valuable. And I think honestly, it probably would be great to weave both of them together.
Yeah,
Have
we'll do a whole course,
supercharge.
Teal,
We might
about
have to do a
this.
whole vision workshop.
Yeah, a whole vision workshop. That would actually be fun. We should do
That would
that.
be really fun. Because I think they are very important. And yours definitely for like the consistency over time, and
Yeah.
mine for the weeding out just the 90% of people that our brains like, ooh, maybe this guy. It's like gut check with your heart. Does that actually feel right in your
Does that
soul?
fit the feelings vision? I love
hmm
that. I really like that.
hmm Yeah.
Cool. Well, Teal, thank you for joining me today, guys. If you want to call with Teal, you can book one via the link in the show notes. Same with myself. Teal, it's been a pleasure.
Great to see you, Mark. Happy New Year.
Great to see you. Happy New Year to you as well. And to all the listeners, guys, we will see you next week on the Teal.